Welcome back to mathematics class. Today we are going to continue with our sequences and series, but today we want to look at arithmetic progressions, AP. Alright, so an arithmetic progression is a sequence in which the difference between consecutive terms is constant, just like I told you in our previous class. Now take for example, now when we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 and so on. So this is an example of arithmetic progression, okay, because it follows a unique pattern. Is that okay? And the difference between these consecutive terms are constant. Take for example, 6 minus 3 is 3. 9 minus 6 is 3. 12 minus 9 is 3. Just find the common differences among the terms. You will discover that we have a constant differences between them. Is that understood? Okay, so this is another example of AP 7, 11, 15, and then 19 and so on. All right, so these are a sample of arithmetic progression. We have discussed this in our previous video. All right, so now let's continue. Let's quickly look at terms used in AP. Don't forget, arithmetic progression is a type of sequence. So we have two types of sequences. We have arithmetic sequence, or which we call arithmetic progression, and we have geometric sequence, or you call it geometric progression. So now we want to look at arithmetic progression today. Is that understood? Now, what are the terms used in arithmetic progression? Okay, the first term that we are going to be using is what we call first term. Okay, first term, and first term is always represented with A, letter A. Is that okay? So when we have AP, say 3, 6, 9 and so on, so this first number is what we call first term. Then the second number is the second term, the third one is the third term, and so on and so forth. Is that understood? Okay, so now the second terms that we are going to be using is what we call common difference. Okay, so we have been talking about it before now, and common difference is denoted with letter D. Understood? And lastly, we are going to be using nth term. Okay, nth term is denoted with Tn. Okay, some textbook will use UN. Is that okay? So whichever the case, but in this scope, or in this class, we are going to be using Tn. Is that understood? So these are the basic terms that we are going to be using in arithmetic progression. All right, so now let's look at the nth term of an AP. All right, and this is where I'm going to give you the formula that we are going to be using throughout AP. Okay, any question that we are going to be given under arithmetic progression, so the nth term formula that we are going to derive here is what we are going to be majorly using. Is that understood? All right, so I will just state the formula here, then tell you what each of the parameters represented, then we'll begin to take some examples under it. Is that okay? So generally, formula for nth term of an AP is given as Tn is equal to A plus open brackets n minus 1 close the bracket D. Understood? All right, so take note of this formula. Is very important, so we are going to be making use of it. All right, so now let me quickly explain each term. Well, you already understood some of this term, but let me quickly tell you again what they stand for. Tn is the nth term. Okay, So where A is the first term, understood, and D is the common difference. The common difference. All right. So and finally, N is the number of terms. Number of terms. So those are the parameters that we have in this formula. All right. So let's continue. Now let's begin to take some worked examples. The first question says, find the 10th term of 2, 5, 8, 11, and so on. All right, solution. Okay, so in this AP given to us, 2, 5, 8, 11, and so on. So the first term here is 2. Okay, meaning that our A is equal to 2. Okay, then our common difference D is equal to, so you can pick any of the term aside from the first term. Okay, if I pick the second term now, which is 5, then I will subtract the previous term, which is first term, from it. 5 minus 2, it will give me 3. All right, so our difference, common difference, is 3. Or you can take 11 and say 11 minus 8, it will still give you 3. Or you can say 8 minus 5, it will give you 3. That's how to find the common difference. So our common difference here is what? Is 3. Then we're given the value of N. Our N is equal to 10. Don't forget, we said N is the number of terms because it said find the 10th term of this AP. You can see we have dot, 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 dot. It means it continues. But where did it actually stop? It says we have 10 terms. So the value of N is 10. Understood? Okay, so the formula we are going to be using is the nth term of an AP, which is given as Tn is equal to A plus open bracket n minus 1 close the bracket D. Understood? So this is the formula we are going to be using. And what we want to find is the 10th term. So Tn now is what? Is 10. Is equal to A is 2, then plus open bracket. Our n is 10 minus 1, close the brackets, and the common difference is 3. Okay, so let's solve one. We have T10 equal to 2 plus 10 minus 1 is 9. So we have 9, then times 3. Okay, so T10 is equal to 2 plus 9 times 3 is 27. Okay, so T10 now will be equal to 27 plus 2, that is 29. Okay, so the 10th term of the AP is 29. So that is how to apply the nth term of an AP. Okay, the formula. All right, so let's continue. The next question says the 18th term of an AP is 25. Find its first term if its common difference is 2. Solution. Okay, so from the question, we're given the value of n, which is the 18th term. So the number of term is n, and it's given to be 18. Okay, so and they said that the 18th term of an AP is 25. That is T18 is equal to 25. Understood? All right, so they said find its first term, that is A, is equal to unknown. That's what we want to find. Then if its common difference, that is D, is equal to what? 2. All right, so we are still going to make use of this formula. Tn is equal to A plus open bracket n minus 1 close the bracket D. All right, so our Tn now, that is T18, is going to be what? 25. Then equal to A is what we want to find, then plus our n is 18, then minus 1, then common difference is 2. So let's solve for that. 25 is equal to A plus 18 minus 1 is 17 times 2. So 25 is equal to A plus 17 times 2 will give us 34. So collecting the like terms, we have 25 minus 34 is equal to A. So 25 minus 34 will give us minus 9 equal to A, or we have A is equal to minus 9. So our first term here now is what? Is minus 9. Alright, so this is how to solve this type of question. Let's continue. So we have another question here, and the question says find the number of terms in an AP given that its first and the last terms are A and 37A respectively, and that its common difference is 4A. Solution. Okay, so from this question we're given Tn, okay, and our Tn is what? Is 37. They said last term, okay, and the last term is 37A. Okay, all right, so let's continue. And they said first term is what? A. So our first term is equal to A. And they also say that our common difference, which is D, is equal to 4A. Alright, so still using this same formula, that is Tn is equal to A plus open brackets n minus 1 times D. Now Tn is 37A equal to A is the first term and is given to be A, then plus open brackets. Our n is still n minus 1, then our D is 4A. Okay, so the n is what we actually want to find. They say find the number of terms. Understood. All right, so let's continue. 37A is equal to A plus, then I'm going to use this 4A to open this bracket. 4A times n will give us 4AN, then minus 4A times 1 is 4A. Okay, so we now have 37A equal to A minus 4A plus 4AN. Understood? So we have 37A equal to, then A minus 4A will give me minus 3A. But permit me to write this 4AN first, then minus 3A. Okay, so 37A is equal to, A is common here. I will factor it out. A, then open bracket 4n minus 3. Understood? So when you divide both sides by A, that is this A will cancel this A. We now have 37 equal to 4n minus 3. Okay, if you collect the like terms, we have 37. This minus 3 comes to this left hand side, it becomes plus 3, then equal to 4n. 37 plus 3 will give us 40, then equal to 4n, where you can rewrite it as 4n equal to 40. So divide both sides by 4. When you divide both sides by 4, you have this 4 cancel this 4, then you have your n to be equal to 40 divided by 4 will give us 10. Alright, so the number of terms in this particular AP arithmetic progression they are talking about is 10. We have 10 terms. Is that understood? Alright, so let's continue. So this question says find the 9th term of the arithmetic progression 18, 12, 6, 0, minus 6, and so on. Solution. Okay, so here we are given the arithmetic progression as you can see it on the screen: 18, 12, 6, 0, and minus 6. So from this arithmetic progression, our A, the first term, is 18. So A is equal to 18. Then our common difference D will be equal to, so we take the second term, which is 12, minus the first term, which is 18. Then 12 minus 18, that will be equal to minus 6. So our common difference is minus 6. Is that understood? Alright, so our n is equal to what? 9. So that's the value of n. So the question says we should find the ninth term of the arithmetic progression. So we'll still make use of this formula. Tn is equal to a plus open bracket n minus 1 times d. So now what we want to find is T9. So equal to A. What is A? A is 18 plus open bracket. N is 9 minus 1. Then D is minus 6. Is that understood? Okay, so our T9 will now be equal to 18 plus 9 minus 1 is 8. Then 8 times minus 6. So we have T9 to be equal to 18. Then this minus times plus will give us minus. The 8 times 6, that is 48. Okay, so T9 will be equal to 18 minus 48 will give us minus 30. Alright, so the ninth term of this particular AP is minus 30. Is that understood? Alright, so now let's take a look at this question also. The question says the sum of the second and fifth terms of an AP is 42. If the difference between sixth and third term is 12, then find the common difference, the first term and the 20th term. Solution. Okay, so I want you to I want you to pay attention to the solution to this problem. Okay, so the question says the sum of the second and the fifth term is equal to 42. So before I even find their sum, all right, which is given to be 42, I will first of all know the second term and the fifth term. Okay, so we are still making use of this formula. Don't forget Tn is equal to A plus open bracket n minus 1 close the bracket times D. So this is the formula we are still using. Now the second term T2, is that okay, will be equal to, using that formula, A plus open bracket n will be 2 because we are talking about second term, then minus 1 close the bracket D. So when you solve this further, you have A plus 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 times D is D. So meaning that my second term is equal to A plus D. Take note of this. Okay. Then let's find the fifth term, that is T5, will be equal to A plus open bracket n, and n is 5 minus 1 close the bracket D. So if you solve this further, you have A plus 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 times D is 4D. So meaning that my T5, the fifth term, is given as A plus 4D. Is that understood? So the first statement in the question says the sum of the second and the fifth term is 42. Meaning that T2 plus T5 is equal to what? 42. So what is the value of T2? That is A plus D, then plus T5, which is A plus 4D, equal to 42. Alright, so A plus A is 2A, then D plus 4D, that is plus 5D, equal to 42. Alright, so let's keep this one as our equation 1. Now let's read the question further. The question says if the difference between the sixth and the third term is 12. Again, I'm going to find my sixth term. So sixth term is T6. So which is equal to, using the same formula, A plus the n is 6 minus 1 times D. Okay, so let me continue here. So T6 will be equal to A plus 6 minus 1 is 5. Then 5 times d is 5d. So that is T6. Then I'm going to find the third term, which is T3. And T3 will be A plus, using the same formula, don't forget, N is 3 minus 1, then times P. So T3 will now be equal to A plus 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 times D will be 2D. So that is T3, the third term. Then if you go back to the question, it says if the difference between the sixth and the third term is 12. Okay, what does that mean? So what it means is T6 minus T3 is equal to what? Is equal to 12. So what is my T6? T6 is A plus 5D, then minus T3. And T3 is A plus 2D. So everything is equal to what? 12. All right. So if you open this bracket, we have A plus 5D, then minus A minus 2D equal to 12. All right. So A minus A, automatically A cancel A out. Then we have 5D minus 2D. That would be 3D to be equal to what? 12. Is that understood? So if you divide both sides by 3, you have D to be equal to 12 over 3. So D will be equal to what now? 4. So the value of D is equal to 4. Meanwhile, the first question they ask us is find the common difference. And you know, common difference is D. So we have answered question A like that. So common difference, okay, is equal to what? Is equal to 4. Now the second question says we should find the first term, and the first term is what? Is A. Then for me to get that first term, I'm going to make use of this equation 1. So from equation 1 is 2A plus 5D equal to what? 42. So in this equation, I'm going to put the value of D, which is 4. Then I will have 2A plus 5D, and D is 4, then equal to 42. Okay, so 2A plus 5 times 4 is 20 equal to 42. So I now have 2A to be equal to 42, then minus 20. So 2A is equal to 42 minus 20 will give us 22. So divide both sides by 2. We have A to be equal to 22 over 2. Then 22 divided by 2 will give us 11. So that is the value of A. And that is a question B. Okay, so you can now conclude and say, oh, first term is equal to what? 11. So that is question B. Then C, let's do C here. All right, so let me change the color of my pen. Then C, they say we should find the 20th term. Then I will use this formula. Okay, 20th terms means we'll find T20. Okay, so T20 will be equal to A plus open brackets N minus 1 times D. Okay, so using that formula and applying that here now, let me just move a little bit down here. So we have T20 to be equal to, what is the value of A? A is calculated to be 11, then plus open bracket N is 20 minus 1, then times D. What is D? The value of D is 4. Okay, you multiply it by 4. All right, so you now have your T20 to be equal to 11 plus 20 minus 1 is 19. Then 19 times what? Times 4. Okay, so T20 will be equal to 11 plus 19 times 4 is 76. Is that understood? Okay, so T20 will be equal to 11 plus 76 will give us 87. All right, so and this is the end of this question. All right, so that is our final answer to this question. So it is very simple and then straightforward, as you have seen me solving it for you. Just take your time to go through it again. It's very simple. All right. So now I want you to also take your time to solve these three classwork. It's very simple.